Hi everyone, trust you all are doing well, and welcome back to another lesson where we continue from the previous one, where we had the one-to-one query relations. In this one, I was thinking instead of doing the one-to-one, one-to-many, I'm just gonna do a part 1, part 2, part 3, because the query relationships kind of will overlap with one another if we do a project. Okay. So in this case, it will be just part 1, part 2, part 3. So I'll just change the thumbnails and things like that. But anyway, it's enough of that. Now, the thing is, in this one, what we're going to do is we added another model. We added a vehicles model. And so that we can be able to query different kind of relationships. So let me go to VS Code. So in VS Code, basically what we have done now is we set up a different relationship between the user and the booking, all right? Because now in this case, a customer can basically have a booking through a vehicle, all right? So if we go to our app models right here, we added that model vehicle right here, but the booking and the user doesn't have a relationship. The user and a vehicle have a relationship, and a vehicle and a booking is a relationship, but the user have a booking through the vehicle. All right. So that's basically what we have done, and we set up that relationship. So let's see how that relationship is set up. As you guys remember from the one through many. So if we go to our users right here, what we have done is we got a vehicles, a one customer or one user has many vehicles, and a vehicle. And if we go to our vehicle model right here, let's just open all three models up. And as you can see, our user has many vehicles, and a vehicle right here belongs to a user. All right, so we set up that relationship right there. All right, the next part is through the user has a booking through the vehicle. So if we go to our user class, you will see here that we have a booking has many through. So basically, so our user has many bookings through the intermediate table vehicle right there. So we set that up right there. All right. So the next one in our booking right here, we need to have the vehicle right here. So if we go to our vehicle relationship here, we vehicle has one booking, and a booking belongs to a vehicle class right here. So basically we have set that relationship up there. So this relationship right here. All right, so then we obviously set up the relationship between the user and the vehicle, like I just explained to you. The vehicle right there, and it belongs to the user. So one user can have many vehicles, okay? The next thing that we're going to do is then we set up the relationship between a booking and a vehicle. So the booking right here, like I explained, belongs to a vehicle, and a vehicle has many bookings. So we got that done. All right. So how do we set up the schema in our database for these different types of relationships? All right. So let's go to our database. Database right here. So all of this is not new to you guys. If you watch the series from the Eloquent relationships, all of this would have already been shown to you. But I'm just going through it so that you guys can see what I've done. Right. So the next part that we have is we got our bookings table right here. Because it belongs to a vehicle, we need to have the vehicle ID right here. So we added that foreign key constraint of the vehicle ID. All right. So let me show you the bookings table. What did we do? All right. So let me just make this so we can have more room there. Okay. So what we have done is we created a booking date. All right. Then we have a num for the status. So it can be received, or it can be in progress, or it can be completed. All right. With the default being received. All right. So we received the booking. All right. So it can mean that the vehicle is in progress or it's completed, so that the customer can know, like, listen, your vehicle is being worked on, or when it's completed. All right. And obviously the booking have the foreign ID of vehicle ID. So this is basically our setup in our database schema. All right. It's for the vehicle for the bookings. So let's see how a vehicle one looks like. You must remember the vehicle belongs to the user. So we need to have a foreign ID of the user inside the vehicles because the vehicle is a child of the user. All right. So what we have done is in our vehicle, we added a make, color, and obviously a num with the body type. So it can be a hatchback, sedans, SUV, or there's many other different ones, but I didn't want to go too overcomplicated things with too many things. All right. This is just a rough an idea. So basically then we added a string for registered number, and then we added another string for the VIN number, and then we obviously add the foreign key constraint for the user ID because the user is the parent of the vehicles. So this is the kind of relationship that in our database set up right there. Right, and the next part that we have is in our user model, we basically left everything as it is, but as you guys can remember, we did the type. We added the type. If it's a 1, it's a customer, 2, if it's a supervisor, and 3, it's admin. All right, so you guys remember that from the first episode. So that is basically that. So let's go to our models. So in our models, in our booking model, just wanted to show you, the fillable is basically the vehicle ID and our booking date. All right. In the vehicle is obviously the relationship, and I added another column of status. Now the status is basically just returning the status, basically the property, but I just uppercase the first letter. All right. So that's basically, if we call on this method, then it just returns this right here. So in the user model, what I've done, so it changes only the relationship, so that is fine. In the vehicle model, what we have done as well, we've just changed the make as well to be uppercase first. So basically just return this, when we call this property, it will just uppercase the first letter. All right, and obviously the protected fillable, the make, the car, color, body type, and all that kind of stuff in the user ID. All right, so the next part is to go to our controllers to see what we have done. So in our controllers, the only thing that we have done, we changed the folders. All right, so that our customer can have its own folder. So inside that, we got our booking controller. So how do we get all our bookings? So basically the authorized users. So if someone logged in, we just get the relationship. We call on that bookings relationship inside our user right here. We call on this relationship. So inside here, we call that bookings relationship has many through vehicle. So when we call on that relationship of the user, we get all their customers' bookings. So let's go to and see what that looks like in our browser. So if we go to the bookings right here, you will see now this customer has got a booking of that we received it, the make, and obviously the registration number. So basically, we call on that has many through relationship. All right, because this bookings right here, as I explained before, if I go to the users, we're calling on this relationship right there. All right, so it's basically, if you can read it in our controller, it's basically user bookings. All right. So, and then we obviously pass it through to our view. So in our view resources, let me just open it like this. So in our resources, we created a bookings and the vehicles as well. So bookings, we got an index and our create method right there. And because it returns many bookings in our view, we just iterate over the bookings that we pass through from here. So the bookings right there, we pass that variable in there. Then we obviously just iterate over it, and then as you can see, we call in the booking status. So if we just did it like this, just status like this, we just call in the property, you will see it will just bring it out like this, the status, without capitalizing the first letter. All right, but if we call on the method that we created inside the model, it will actually just uppercase. Basically in our model right here, we're calling on now bookings, we're calling on this method right here. Okay, so let's go back in our index. As you can see, the bookings vehicle.make right here. So we're calling also in the booking. Let me just go to the model again. Booking model right here. So inside here, in that vehicle model, we're actually calling this right here. Now, the thing is, what we can do, we can actually call on through the booking, we can actually find out the user. So basically the vehicle, and then we can actually call on the user name like this. We can actually do that. So let's see. Now, as you can see, it returns that name because of that relationship that we set up between the vehicle, the booking, and the user. All right, because we can do that, we actually can call on through the booking. We can actually check who is the owner of the vehicle. All right. But this is not what we're looking for right now. We're actually just looking for the make. So we just call on that method right there. Then we're obviously checking the vehicle registration number and obviously the booking date right there. Okay. The next part in our booking controller is we had the create method. So basically, if a user, we getting all the vehicles of that authorized user. So basically the author user, we're just getting their vehicles, and this side, we're just getting their bookings. So let's go and see how we do the create of a booking. So if we do a create a booking right here, you can see that basically we can select the date, but you see the car model right here. We just, if the user has vehicles, so in this case, this user's got two vehicles. They got a Toyota and they got a Mazda. And this is where registration right here. They can even add a different vehicle. So in this case, we can just add another vehicle, BMW. And we're just going to say white and just some random registration and just a different VIN number they just created. So as you can see right here, they got a different vehicle. But I will explain this now when we get to this part right here. So the bookings right here now, so when the user create a booking, so they can actually choose which vehicle they want to put in for a service or whatever the case might be. All right, so let's just select one and we're just going to create the BMW and then we're going to create. As you can see, they put that booking in right there as well. So basically what we have done is in our create method, we just get the auth user, the person that's logged in, that user, we just get their vehicles. We're calling on that relationship in the user, basically the user right here. We call on this relationship right there. All right. So then we pass obviously the vehicles in there. And then basically when we store the vehicles, we're basically getting the book date and the vehicle ID. Then we create the booking by booking.create with the vehicle and the request and the vehicle ID with the request ID. All right. So we can obviously instead of doing the validation like this, we can actually do like a booking.create. And then we can just say validated data. And then we can just equal this to a validate. Is equal to that, and then we don't have to do this. Okay, so we don't have to do this, but I wanted to do it that way just for you guys, just as a reference. Okay, so basically you can just do it like this. The validate data is equal to basically that request, and then you can just pass the validated data in there, so you don't have to type it out twice, right? Just as a mental note. Right, so let's do that. And let me just delete this. Obviously, then I return it, redirect the message with the book successfully created. Right, so that's basically our booking controller, how we've set it up here. Then inside our create method right here, just a little bit bigger, we obviously have our input for our schedule date, and we have a select element with the options where we can select the vehicle, and we iterate basically over the vehicles because the vehicles will come as a collection, and then we just iterate over them. And then we obviously call on that vehicle make property so that we just uppercase the first letter. That's all. Right, so that's our vehicle one. That's our booking controller done. So let's go and see what it looks like in our vehicle controller, in our customer. So in this case, we call on that relationship in our vehicle between the user brings in his vehicles. All right, so in our index method, so we call on that relationship again. A user is vehicles, we call on that vehicles relationship. Then we pass it basically to the view, and inside the view, in our index view, we basically just iterate over the vehicles as well. So we returns the collection and the collection, and we just put it inside here. We can obviously call on the method right there, and if we go to our create method, we just return that view right here. Let me just change something. That is a number. This is purely fictional company, so it's obviously a lot more detail that you're going to add if you do it for a real production. So in this instance, if a user created a booking, an email will be sent to the admin or the supervisor, or to both, letting them know that, listen, this customer created the booking. Then the supervisor will obviously update the status and things like that. But I just wanted to show you the relationship, query the relationship between the users, between the models. All right. So in the next case is basically, if we go to our, so basically when we create a vehicle right here, so we getting the car, the color, registration, and then basically we create the vehicle right there. All simple stuff that you guys might know by now. All right, and then basically we validate it and then we create it. All right, and the user ID will basically be the person that's authorized inside to basically create the vehicle right there. But the relationship part is like I just shown you, like the vehicles right there. And now the next thing is, all right, so basically that is all of that. So just to how to kind of set up the relationships and how to get different information. All right. So that's it for this lesson. Now, basically what we're going to do in the next one is basically where the admin is basically going to determine if the customer has bookings and all that kind of stuff. So that will be part 3 of the series. And because the relationship will be more or less the same, but the thing is, how do we query different things? Because my biggest problem was when I started with Laravel is, how do I find certain data? It was kind of my biggest thing. So when I struggle with, how do I do a query when I want to know certain things on a certain date, when this is done or that is done. Right. But that is as clear as mud. But I will, in the next episode, basically we're just going to do the admin side, basically querying the different sides of the relationship for certain information. All right. Thank you guys for watching. And if you liked the video, please give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. And yes, thank you. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.